The billionaire looked his black wife in the eyes at a party and said, "You're stupid," he whispered, loud enough for the crowd to hear. People turned. Some laughed. Some stared. What he didn't know is that the same woman made 30 times more money than him. She froze. Her heart stung, but her voice stayed quiet. People laughed. Cameras flashed. He thought she was small. He thought she was powerless. But the truth? She was richer, smarter, and stronger than everyone in that room. And his cruel words would be the beginning of his own downfall. Hey, before we dive into Arielle's story, I'd love to know, where are you watching from today? Drop your city or country in the comments. I want to feel connected with each of you, because no matter where we are, stories like this remind us that strength, courage, and resilience are universal. Arielle Moreau-Vos stood at the center of the marble ballroom, the chandeliers above her glittering like cold stars. She was 27 years old, a black woman from Baltimore with soft, steady eyes and a calm smile she had mastered over years of pretending to belong in rooms that didn't want her. Tonight, she wore a simple white gown, nothing flashy, nothing loud, because she preferred to let silence speak for her. But silence could not protect her from what was about to happen. Guests in diamonds and tailored suits moved around her, murmuring, sipping champagne, laughing too loudly at things that weren't funny. Manhattan's elite gathered for the Voss Foundation Gala, a charity event her husband hosted every year. Cameras flashed, reporters whispered, and Arielle kept her hands folded to hide their slight tremble. She hated these events. She hated how eyes slid over her like she was a decoration, not a wife. Hadrian Voss, tall and sharp-featured, with a permanent smirk he mistook for charm, wrapped an arm around her waist. To the crowd, he looked loving. To Arielle, his touch felt like a warning. He leaned in to whisper something she didn't catch, but she nodded anyway, trained to stay gentle, trained to avoid embarrassment, trained to survive. Then a reporter approached. "Mrs. Voss," she said, smiling too brightly. "Could you share your thoughts on the investment strategy for next year's foundation expansion?" A simple question. Straightforward. One Arielle could answer in her sleep if she were allowed to be herself. But before she could respond, Hadrian tightened his grip. Hard. Enough to make her wince. He laughed loudly, waving his free hand at the reporter as if the question were absurd. "Oh, don't ask her that," he said. "Arielle doesn't do the thinking. She just signs what I tell her." Sweet, but honestly, he chuckled, shaking his head. "She's too stupid to understand the financial side." The ballroom fell silent. Every head turned. Arielle felt the air leave her chest, as if someone had punched her. The word echoed in her skull, stupid, sharp enough to cut. She saw eyes widen, cameras lift, lips part. Some guests looked away in pity. Others smirked. A few whispered, enjoying the spectacle. Hadrian kept smiling, unaware, or uncaring, that he had just shattered something inside her. Arielle stood frozen, her pulse pounding, her vision tightening. For a moment, she wasn't in a ballroom at all. She was 16 again, standing in a Baltimore classroom where a teacher once told her she spoke like she was trying too hard. She was 10 again, hearing a neighbor say she was pretty for a black girl. She was 7 again, realizing the world judged her before she ever opened her mouth. But she wasn't 7 now. She wasn't 10. She wasn't 16. She was Arielle Moreau-Vos. Slowly, she lifted her chin. The room watched. Hadrian didn't notice. He was too busy entertaining the guests, too busy feeling superior. Arielle stepped closer to him, close enough that the cameras couldn't catch her lips, close enough that only he could hear. Her voice was quiet, steady, almost gentle, but whatever she whispered made Hadrian's smile vanish instantly. His eyes widened. His body stiffened. Arielle turned and began walking away, leaving him pale and speechless in the center of his own gala. Behind her, guests exchanged confused glances. Something had shifted. Hadrian knew it, but the crowd didn't. Not yet. Hadrian staggered after her, grabbing her arm, just as a man in a dark suit stepped out from behind a column and handed Arielle an envelope with her name printed in thick black ink. Hadrian froze. Arielle looked down at it. The envelope trembled slightly in her hand. Whatever was inside would change everything. If Arielle's story shocked you as much as it did me, show some love. Hit that like button, subscribe, and share this video. Every click helps her story reach someone who needs to see that strength, courage, and resilience can rise from even the darkest moments. Arielle sat alone in her dressing room after the gala, the envelope still in her hand. The noise from the ballroom was muffled now, like distant waves crashing behind a wall. Her reflection in the mirror showed calm eyes and a steady jaw, but inside she felt something old and familiar stirring. Something from long before she became Mrs. Voss. Something from Baltimore. Back then, her world was small but full, cracked sidewalks, corner stores, the rumble of city buses, and her mother's voice singing while cooking dinner. Her mother, Liana Morrow, worked 2 jobs and still came home smiling, still made sure Arielle had notebooks, pencils, and space to dream. Your mind is your inheritance, she used to say. Protect it, feed it, trust it. Arielle took that lesson like scripture. She was quiet in school, the girl who always sat by the window with a book too big for her backpack. Teachers expected average work, but she gave them brilliance. Numbers spoke to her like music. Patterns jumped out at her like friends waving from across the street. She saw connections others missed. She solved problems before teachers finished writing them on the board. But she never bragged. She never needed to. Quiet genius was her nature, not her mask. By 16, she was teaching herself code on an old laptop her mother found at a yard sale. Its battery barely held a charge, and its screen flickered like an old TV, but Arielle made magic with it. She wasn't trying to be rich. She wasn't trying to be anything. She just loved creating things that worked, things that made sense when life didn't. At 19, she built a predictive algorithm just for fun, something she thought would help her track her college expenses. But when she tested it on mock investment patterns, it shocked her. It was accurate, frighteningly accurate. She refined it, tested again, and realized she had something powerful, something the world would pay millions for. But giving it away felt wrong. She wasn't interested in fame. She wanted safety. She wanted freedom. So she created a hidden identity, AM 13, an anonymous investment figure whispered about on Wall Street. No one knew AM 13's age, face, or gender. No one guessed the mastermind was a young black woman sitting on the corner of North Avenue eating takeout with her mother. And under that hidden name, she built silent wealth, clean, quiet, unstoppable. By the time she was 24, she earned more in a month than Hadrian Voss earned in a year. But she kept her life simple because simplicity felt safe. People could judge her clothes, her speech, her background, but no one could touch what they couldn't see. Meeting Hadrian had been unexpected. He approached her at a rooftop event in Miami, wearing charm like a suit. He complimented her smile, her voice, her calm energy. She believed he saw her. She believed he valued her. She never imagined he admired her precisely because he thought she was powerless. But she wasn't powerless. She never had been. A soft knock at the door pulled her back to the present. A young staff member slipped inside, nervous, holding out another envelope. Thinner, cream-colored, sealed with a dark red stamp. "This was delivered for you, Mrs. Voss," the girl whispered. Arielle took it slowly. The first envelope, the one handed to her at the gala, rested on the table beside her. Now a second one appeared, addressed in the same careful handwriting. Her pulse slowed. 2 letters. Same night. Same sender. She felt the weight of her past settle inside her chest. The girl who could see patterns others ignored suddenly seeing a pattern forming around her. She broke the seal with her thumb. Inside was a single line, written in clean block letters. "You need to know what your husband has done." A chill slid through her. This wasn't random. It wasn't polite. It wasn't vague. It was a warning. At the bottom of the page, she noticed a small symbol, one she recognized instantly. A symbol she hadn't seen since her secret life as AM 13 began. She stood slowly, breath caught in her throat. Someone from her hidden world had found her. And they wanted to talk about Hadrian. Arielle stared at the symbol at the bottom of the letter, her heartbeat loud enough to drown out the music still drifting through the gala walls. It was the mark used by a private network of silent investors, shadowy, brilliant, ultra-rich individuals who operated behind coded names just like she did. They never contacted each other directly. They never wrote letters. And they certainly never reached into personal lives. Whoever sent this had broken a rule older than her fortune. She slipped the letter into her clutch and walked toward the private elevator, her steps steady, her mind racing. Her suite upstairs was empty and quiet, a welcome contrast to the noise below. She locked the door, exhaled slowly, and pulled out her secure laptop. the one Hadrian didn't know existed. With fingers that moved on instinct, she accessed the dark back channels she once used daily. The symbol from the letter matched a user she had admired years ago, someone known for uncovering corruption in major corporations. They were brilliant and dangerous, and always right. A new message appeared on her encrypted server. Check your husband's balance sheet. Now, Arielle hesitated only a second before opening an analysis suite she had built herself. She typed Voss Global Holdings into the system and watched her algorithm surge to life, digging through public filings, offshore accounts, dormant subsidiaries, shell companies, anything connected to Hadrian. What she found made her breath catch. Red flags. Everywhere. Debt layered on debt. Loans borrowed against loans. Assets inflated and reinflated until they were practically hollow. It was a castle made of glass, looking solid from the outside, fragile as dust on the inside. She clicked deeper. More debt. More lies. Arielle's stomach tightened as she opened the final summary page. Numbers flashed across the screen before settling into a stark conclusion. Hadrian Voss. Liquidity crisis. Imminent collapse timeline. 3 to 6 months. Her hands trembled. How long had he known? How long had he been pretending? How many speeches had he given about power and legacy while his empire quietly rotted underneath him? She thought back to their early months together, Miami sunsets, rooftop dinners, gentle promises. He had talked endlessly about his brilliant instincts and unmatched business mind. She had listened, believing it was confidence, not camouflage. She had married him thinking he was strong, steady, successful. But he wasn't steady. He wasn't successful. He wasn't strong. He was sinking, and he had never said a word. Arielle closed her eyes and let the truth settle like cold water in her chest. Hadrian wasn't mocking her out of superiority. He was mocking her out of fear. Weak men lash out when their walls begin to crack. She stood to pace the room, needing air, needing distance, but the walls felt like they were closing in. She had to confront him. She had to ask why. She had to understand. But before she could move, the door clicked. Hadrian's voice drifted into the suite, low, hurried, angry. She froze. He wasn't alone. Arielle stepped closer to the doorframe, keeping herself in shadow as his words sharpened. She has no idea, Hadrian hissed. She thinks she's lucky to be with me. When the merge goes through, her assets roll into mine automatically. I'll be saved. She'll never see it coming. Arielle's blood ran cold. He was using her. Not emotionally. Financially. Legally. He planned to survive by draining her dry. Her hand covered her mouth as his voice dropped to a whisper. In a few weeks, everything she owns will be under my control. Arielle's eyes widened as the man he was speaking to responded in a chilling tone. And if she refuses? Hadrian answered without hesitation. Then we'll make her. Arielle pressed her back to the wall, forcing herself to breathe quietly as Hadrian's voice faded down the hallway. The door shut behind him, leaving the suite silent again, too silent. Her chest ached, not just from the fear of what he planned, but from the memory of who she once believed he was. The man she heard tonight didn't match the man she met years ago in Miami. Or maybe he always had, and she simply hadn't seen it. She sank onto the edge of the bed, clutching a pillow as if it could steady her thoughts. The soft hum of the city through the window pulled her backward in time, to warm air, orange sunsets, and a version of herself who still believed in love. She had been 23 then, attending a tech summit under an alias, her identity hidden among investors twice her age. Miami smelled of salt and citrus, and the world felt bigger, brighter. One night, after a long day of panels, she'd escaped to a rooftop bar, wanting only a quiet drink and a view of the skyline. That's when Hadrian appeared. He was charming in a way that felt effortless, leaning against the bar, smiling like he already knew she'd smile back. His suit wasn't flashy, but it fit him perfectly. His voice, smooth, confident, rolled over her like warm wind. Drinking alone? He'd asked, sliding onto the stool beside her. I like quiet places, she had answered. So do I. He lied, though she didn't know it then. He asked about her interests, her dreams, her views on innovation. He laughed at her jokes, asked thoughtful questions, and listened as if her words were rare jewels he was lucky to hear. It felt unreal, being seen, being heard, being valued. They spent hours talking over glowing cocktail glasses. Then he took her to the boardwalk. Buying her churros, she didn't even want just to see her smile. He held her hand lightly, not possessively, just gently, as if asking permission with every step. I don't meet people like you, he had told her. You're brilliant. You're different from anyone I know. She believed him. She believed he meant it. Now she realized he admired her mind only when he thought he could control it. The moment he sensed it was stronger than his own, he turned cruel. Arielle stood, wiping her eyes. She refused to be the girl on the rooftop anymore. She walked back to her laptop, pulled up the financial documents again, and began digging deeper. That's when she found it. The paperwork labeled Vos Moro Joint Asset Merge Agreement, marked pending spousal signature. Her stomach dropped. He had already filed the merge. He had already signed his part. Her signature line was blank, but the date was set for next week. A meeting she hadn't been told about. A legal trap waiting for her. He wasn't planning to ask. He was planning to force. Her hands trembled, not with fear, but with betrayal so heavy it made her feel hollow. Every smile he ever gave her suddenly felt like a lie. Every gentle moment felt like carefully placed bait. Arielle closed the laptop, her decision forming like steel inside her chest. She would not be used. Not by him. Not ever again. She walked toward the window, staring out at the city lights, trying to gather her strength. She was still lost in thought when a sharp knock echoed through the suite. She froze. It was late. Too late for staff. Too late for anyone she trusted. Another knock, firmer this time. Arielle stepped slowly toward the door, her fingers tightening around the handle as she peered through the peephole. Her breath caught. Standing on the other side was someone she never expected to see again. Someone from her past life. Someone who should not have known where she lived. Someone who knew AM 13. The visitor leaned in toward the door and whispered, just loudly enough for her to hear. Arielle, open up. It's about your husband. You're in danger. Arielle hesitated only a second before unlocking the door. The man standing there wore a dark coat and glasses, his expression calm but alert. He looked like someone who lived in the shadows on purpose. He held no weapon, just a slim leather folder tucked under one arm. When he stepped inside, he moved carefully, as if measuring every breath. My name is Kellen Rhodes, he said softly. I'm a private investigator. I was hired to watch your husband. Not you. Arielle crossed her arms, keeping distance. Who hired you? I'm not authorized to say, Kellen replied. But it wasn't Hadrian. And it wasn't someone trying to hurt you. He studied her carefully. I know who you are. Who you really are. AM 13. Arielle stiffened. He lifted his hand slowly. Relax. I'm not here to expose you. I'm here because the person who hired me believes you deserve the truth. Arielle swallowed hard, forcing her voice to remain steady. What truth? Kellen opened the leather folder and placed it gently on the coffee table, flipping the first page toward her. Your husband isn't just drowning in debt, he began. He's desperate. And when people like him get desperate, they get reckless. They lie. They gamble. They use people. Arielle already knew that, but she didn't interrupt. Kellen continued. I was tracking his offshore accounts, monitoring his business meetings, tracing where the money was going. He paused, looking directly into her eyes. And that's how I found this. He slid a glossy photograph across the table. A woman, young, blonde, expensive-looking, stood with Hadrian outside a Miami hotel, their hands intertwined like lovers used to touching without fear of being caught. She was leaning on him, smiling up at him as if he hung the moon. Arielle felt her shoulders tighten. A strange numbness spread through her fingers. Kellen placed another photo. Then another. Another. Different cities. Different outfits. Same woman. Same closeness. Arielle stared, unable to blink. Her throat burned. He's been seeing her for over a year, Kellen said gently. Maybe longer. Arielle breathed through the sting, refusing to show tears. But Kellen wasn't finished. He flipped to a transcript page, messages printed in neat black text. Hadrian, she's perfect for the image. A black wife softens the bad press. Investors love it. Mistress, you think she suspects? Hadrian, she's naive. Sweet. Useful. She'll sign whatever I put in front of her. Mistress, and after? Hadrian, when the merge is done, she won't matter. Arielle covered her mouth, a broken sound escaping before she could stop it. Her heart felt like it was cracking open, spilling years of trust she thought she'd built wisely. She was never competition, Kellen added softly. He didn't love her either. She was just part of the plan. Arielle shook her head slowly, disbelief refusing to give way. No, she whispered. He wouldn't marry me for optics. Kellen finished. For credibility? For diversity points? For a safety net? His voice didn't carry judgment, only truth. Quiet, heavy truth. Arielle sank onto the couch, staring at the photographs spread across the table like weapons aimed at her chest. The pain was sharp, but beneath it, another feeling stirred, something stronger, older, fiercer. Something that belonged to the girl who built empires in silence. Kellen closed the folder and leaned forward. There's more, he warned. Arielle looked up, braced. Hadrian's advisors are preparing documents to seize your wealth the moment the merge is signed, Kellen said. They think you're ignorant. They think you'll freeze. They think you'll let them win. Arielle straightened slowly, a calm settling over her like armor sliding into place. Kellen nodded, seeing her shift. Good. You'll need that strength. He stood, pulling a secure flash drive from his pocket and placing it in her hand. Everything you need is here. Proof, bank routes, passwords, transcripts. But you don't have much time. Arielle closed her fingers around the flash drive. How much time do I have? Kellen met her eyes with grave seriousness. Less than 48 hours to protect your money. Arielle didn't sleep. She didn't cry. She didn't pace or scream or fall apart. Instead, she moved with a stillness so focused it felt like gravity shifted around her. The moment Kellen left, she locked the door, lowered the blinds, and powered on her secure laptop again, this time accessing systems that hadn't been touched in months. Her quiet revenge had begun. The screen glowed a soft blue as she launched an encrypted channel known only to 3 people in the world, her secret financial team stationed in a small office in Cambridge, Massachusetts. They weren't glamorous. They weren't loud. They were data knights who worked in shadows, paid generously to guard the fortune no one knew she owned. When the video feed opened, the first face appeared, Katia, her lead analyst. A brilliant coder with short auburn curls and eyes that saw through lies like glass. Arielle? It's late. Are you safe? She asked, instantly alert. Not exactly, Arielle replied calmly. I need a full sweep of all AM-13 accounts. Priority level red. Katia froze. She had never heard Arielle say those words. Red? Are you sure? Positive, Arielle said. Don't ask questions. Just find the vulnerabilities. Katia nodded sharply and began typing so fast her fingers blurred. 2 more analysts joined. Rico and Juno, faces serious, jaws tight. They had worked with her for years without ever asking personal questions. Loyalty through silence. While they prepared the scan, Arielle sat back, breathing deeply, letting logic settle above emotion. She replayed every moment with Hadrian, every smile, every promise, every compliment that now tasted like smoke. She didn't care about his mistress. She didn't care about the lies he told her heart. But she cared deeply about what he planned to steal. Her mother's voice echoed in her memory. Your mind is your inheritance. And Hadrian had tried to rob it. A soft ping pulled her attention to the screen. Rico looked up first. Initial results show unusual login attempts at 3 in the morning yesterday, he said. Origin IP is masked, but the pattern matches a professional-level breach test. Arielle's jaw clenched. Internal or external? Katia frowned. External. Someone tried to force access into your algorithm vault. Twice. Juno's eyes narrowed. Wait, pattern ID on the breach attempt looks familiar. Arielle straightened. Familiar how? Juno zoomed in on the data trail, enhancing it until lines of code pulsed across the screen. This signature. I've seen it before, he murmured. Hold on. Cross-referencing with older breach logs. Rico leaned in. No way. That can't be right. Juno's eyes widened. It's him. Arielle's stomach tightened. Who? Hadrian Voss, Juno whispered. His company used this exact signature when they attempted a hostile takeover of a smaller firm 3 years ago. This is his tech team's coding style, sloppy but aggressive. Arielle felt heat rise in her chest. Not fear, but anger, sharp and precise. He had tried to hack her. He had tried to reach AM-13. He had tried to break into the part of her life she had kept hidden from everyone, even him. Katia's fingers flew across the keyboard again. We're running deeper scans. If he accessed anything, we'll find it. Arielle forced her voice steady. He won't stop. Not until he gets what he wants. Katia looked up at her, eyes full of something like protective fire. Then we make sure he never gets close again. The team ran system after system. Arielle watched every scan, every alert, every safeguard. Minutes felt like hours. She held her breath each time the screen flickered. Then suddenly, Katia froze. Her eyes widened in horror. Arielle, her voice came out thin, trembling. You need to sit down. Arielle didn't. She stepped closer. Katia swallowed hard. Someone just transferred $10 million out of your account. For the first time since the nightmare began, Arielle couldn't hold herself upright. The moment the call ended with Katia, she shut the laptop, walked numbly across her penthouse, and sank to the polished concrete floor. Her back met the cool wall. Her knees pulled tight to her chest. The city lights outside blurred into streaks of gold and white as tears finally broke free. Hot, relentless, uncontrolled. She cried for her mother, who had raised her to be careful, to be brilliant, to be unbreakable. She cried for the version of herself who believed love didn't require caution. She cried for the betrayal, the deception, the violation of knowing someone she trusted had reached into her secret world and stolen $10 million with the ease of stealing a kiss. Her breath hitched. She pressed her palms to her eyes, shoulders shaking. No boardroom strategy, no encryption, no algorithm could protect her from this moment. This raw, human collapse. 10 million. Gone. Just like that. Hadrian hadn't just crossed a line. He'd obliterated the entire boundary. When the sobs finally slowed, Arielle lifted her head. Her face felt swollen, her throat raw. Why? She whispered into the empty penthouse. Why me? Why now? Silence answered. She wiped her cheeks and forced herself to inhale, shaky but defiant. She wouldn't drown here. She wouldn't let him win. Tomorrow, she would. A faint metallic click echoed from the hallway. Arielle froze. Another sound followed, a slow, deliberate footstep. Her breathing stopped. She listened hard, pulse hammering. No one should be here. Her doorman was off at midnight. She hadn't buzzed anyone in. A shadow moved under the gap of the hallway light. Arielle's mind sharpened instantly. She rose silently, backing toward the kitchen island. Her fingers darted into the drawer where she kept a chef's knife. Not for cooking, but for reasons she never shared. She gripped the handle tight, stepping softly, carefully. Then the sound came again. Creaking floorboard, closer now. Arielle, a deep voice murmured. Her heart plummeted. She didn't recognize it. Before she could run, the living room lights flicked off, plunging everything into darkness. Arielle sucked in a breath. Who's there? Silence. Then, a soft exhale. A presence behind her. She spun, knife raised. A large figure in a black mask grabbed her wrist, twisting with brutal efficiency. The knife clattered across the floor. She gasped, stumbling backward as the intruder shoved her against the island. A gloved hand covered her mouth. Don't scream, he growled. But she tried anyway. The hand pressed harder. Her mind raced. Break the grip. Create distance. Reach the knife. Anything. But he was stronger. Taller. Unyielding. I need the files, he hissed. Arielle froze. Files. Her financial data? Her algorithms? Her identity? I don't know what you're talking about, she choked out when he loosened his grip. Don't lie. His other hand reached behind him and pulled something metallic from under his jacket. Not a gun. A hard drive. Empty. Ready. He slammed it on the island. You're transferring everything. Now. Her stomach twisted. I can't. There's nothing here. My accounts aren't local. He grabbed her arm and yanked her forward, making her gasp in pain. Then you'll log in. No, she whispered, terrified, breath shallow. You will. His mask hovered inches from her face, his voice low, poisoned. Hadrian wants everything. Arielle ran, barefoot, shaking, and clutching the one thing she managed to grab. The intruder's dropped phone. She dashed through the private lobby, through the empty street, until a cab finally screeched to a stop beside her. She tumbled inside, breath ragged, body trembling so violently the driver kept glancing back as if she might pass out. New Jersey, she whispered. Edgewater. Fast. The night blurred outside the window, bridges, tunnels, streetlights, until New York became nothing more than a glittering threat in the distance. Arielle kept looking over her shoulder, half expecting black SUVs to appear, half expecting Hadrian himself to step out of the darkness and finish what he started through that masked monster. By the time the cab pulled up to Lyric's townhouse, warm lights glowing behind drawn curtains, Arielle felt her knees weaken with relief. Lyric opened the door the second she knocked. Her face, usually all bright smiles and chaotic curls, tightened with alarm at the sight of Arielle's shaken state. "Oh my God, Arielle. Come inside. Now." She pulled her in, locked the door twice, then wrapped her in a tight hug. "What happened? You look like you've been running from death." Arielle couldn't answer yet. She collapsed onto the couch while Lyric fetched water and a blanket. When she finally spoke, her voice was thin, trembling. "Someone broke in. They tried to force me to access my accounts. They said, Hadrian wants everything." Lyric's jaw dropped. "Your husband? Hadrian? As in Mr. Harvard Smile and Yacht Tan?" Arielle nodded, tears stinging again. "He sent someone after me." Lyric knelt beside her, gripping her hands. "You're safe here. I promise you. We'll figure this out." A moment of calm settled over the room. Soft, warm, the first safe breath Arielle took in hours. Lyric's home smelled of cinnamon candles and laundry. A small dog snored on the second couch. A sitcom rerun played quietly in the background. For a moment, Arielle almost felt human again. Then she remembered the phone. She pulled it from her pocket, setting it between them on the coffee table. "He dropped this," she whispered. "The intruder." Lyric's brows lifted. "Girl, if that's unlocked, we hit the jackpot." Arielle picked it up, hands still shaking, and pressed the power button. Unlocked. The home screen lit up instantly. No password, no face recognition. The intruder must have disabled it during the break-in. A shiver ran through her. He'd been so confident he would walk away with her data. He never imagined he might lose something instead. Lyric leaned close. "Check texts." Arielle opened the messaging app. Her stomach dropped. There were dozens of threads, location requests, payment confirmations, surveillance logs. But the one pinned at the top made her heart freeze. Hadrian H., his contact name, pinned. Lyric's mouth fell open. "Girl, click it." Arielle tapped the thread. Screenshots, voice notes, instructions spilled onto the screen like poison. "H. Make sure she signs the merger papers." "H. She's emotional. Push harder." "H. If she resists, scare her. Not too much, just enough." "H. I need the files. Her brain is the only valuable thing she has." "H. Take everything tonight. She won't fight." Arielle's breath hitched. Lyric's hand flew to her mouth. "Oh my God," Lyric whispered. "He planned this. He's been planning this." Arielle scrolled further. "Intruder. What about the other woman? Should she be there when we finish?" "H. Don't worry about her. She knows her role." The words hit Arielle like physical blows. Her hands began to shake. Lyric wrapped an arm around her shoulders. "Breathe," her friend urged. "You're not alone. We take this to the police. Or a lawyer. Or the FBI. Hell, all three." Arielle nodded slowly, her spine straightening. A new strength pulsed through her, thin but undeniable. She finally had proof. Receipts. Evidence. She wasn't crazy. She wasn't paranoid. She wasn't imagining Hadrian's hatred and greed. He really was trying to destroy her. Lyric exhaled sharply. "Okay, we make a plan. Tonight. Right now. Because you're not losing another dollar to that sociopath." Before Arielle could respond, the phone buzzed violently in her hand. A new message appeared at the top of the thread, fresh, unread, and chilling. From HotieCorp Secure Line. "We know where you are." Arielle and Lyric froze. The next morning arrived gray and heavy, as if the sky itself knew what waited on the other end of Arielle's phone call. She sat at Lyric's kitchen table, nursing a mug of untouched tea. Lyric paced behind her, whispering to herself, "This is insane. Your man is literally trying to kill you. Who even lives like this?" The little dog trotted between their feet, sensing the tension. Arielle stared at the intruder's phone again, at the messages from Hadrian, each one colder than the last. She felt hollow, not shocked anymore, just tired, bone-deep tired. But tired wasn't the same as defeated. She pulled out her own encrypted phone, the private line only her financial team and one other person had access to, a number she hadn't used in 2 years. Natalie Hanover, federal attorney, Washington, D.C. Natalie had once tried to recruit Arielle to serve as a cybersecurity advisor for a tech task force. Arielle declined, preferring anonymity over federal work. But Natalie had said something that stuck with her. If the world ever turns on you, call me. I mean it. Today, the world was sprinting at her with knives. Arielle inhaled, pressed the call button, and prayed the number still existed. The line rang once, twice. Then, Hanover speaking. Arielle exhaled shakily. Natalie, it's Arielle. A sharp pause. Papers rustled. A chair scraped. Arielle? You're calling from your emergency line. Are you safe? No. Arielle said, voice cracking. I don't think I am. Where are you? New Jersey. At a friend's. She swallowed. Natalie, I have evidence someone tried to steal my data. Someone hired a man to break into my home. I think. No, I know that my husband is behind it. Natalie cursed softly under her breath. Tell me everything. Arielle explained in pieces. The false marriage, the stolen money, the masked intruder, the dropped phone with messages, the threat text. We know where you are. For a few seconds, Natalie said nothing. Then her tone shifted so drastically Arielle sat up straighter. Arielle, listen to me very carefully. Okay. Your husband, Hadrian Cross, he's already under federal investigation. Arielle's stomach dropped. What? We've been building a case for months. International financial crimes. Fraud. Asset manipulation. Offshore laundering. A paper slammed against a desk. He's tangled with very dangerous partners. People who don't like loose ends. Arielle's hands grew cold. What does that have to do with me? In the last week, Natalie said, your name has started appearing in some documents. Your accounts. Your patterns. It looks like he's using you as a shield. And if he thinks you're a threat or a liability, he might try to eliminate both. Arielle felt everything tilt. I didn't even know. I never touched his business. I know, Natalie said. But criminals don't need truth. They need convenience. And you're very convenient for him right now. Arielle's eyes burned. Lyric, listening from the other side of the kitchen, covered her mouth in horror. So what do I do? Arielle whispered. There was a long, heavy sigh on the other end of the line. We need to separate you from him legally, financially, and publicly. Immediately. Arielle nodded, even though Natalie couldn't see her. Yes, whatever you need. And, Natalie paused. Arielle, the evidence you have, the phone, the messages, that could accelerate our case. It's exactly the kind of internal communication we've been missing. Arielle swallowed. So I give it to you. You give it to me, Natalie echoed softly. But that also puts a target on your back. Arielle closed her eyes. She pictured her mother. She pictured herself at 10 years old, building her first computer from yard sale parts. She pictured every moment she hid her genius behind quiet smiles. She hadn't survived poverty, racism, competition, and misogyny to die at the hands of a greedy man. Her voice steadied. I'll do it. Natalie inhaled sharply, almost with admiration. Arielle, we need you to testify. The room fell silent. Lyric froze mid-step. Arielle's heartbeat thundered. Testify. Against her own husband. Against men powerful enough to kill for less. Tell me what that means, Arielle whispered. Arielle arrived at the courthouse early, hours before her testimony. The grand marble steps felt impossibly cold beneath her polished shoes, and the air smelled of ink, varnish, and tension. She carried only a thin folder. Her notes, the intruder's phone, Kadia's reports, and her own meticulously organized financial proofs. Nothing flashy. No attention-seeking suits. Just facts. Just truth. Her hands were steady, even as her stomach twisted with anxiety. Lyric had insisted on coming along, but Arielle asked her to wait outside, to remain the friend, not the shield. This battle was hers, not Hadrian's, not anyone else's. She reviewed her statements silently, word by word. Each sentence had been honed, double-checked, verified. Lies wouldn't survive this testimony. Threats wouldn't survive. Not her intellect, her skill, her focus. She had survived Hadrian's deception for months. She could survive this too. When she finally looked up, the courtroom began to fill. Reporters, cameras, and the curious public whispered excitedly. Arielle felt dozens of eyes on her, not just observing, judging, and recording, but trying to measure her. She refused to flinch. She refused to betray her fear. Then the doors opened, and Hadrian stepped in. He walked with an air of confidence, tall and tailored, perfectly coiffed. But Arielle noticed the subtle tension in his jaw. He wasn't smiling at the courthouse. no longer the charming billionaire. Instead, he walked beside his blonde mistress, her hand brushing his like they were a public trophy of triumph. Cameras swiveled instantly, flashes flickering, journalists murmuring. Hadrian raised his voice in a calculated way that drew attention. "Ladies and gentlemen," he called out, theatrically, "today we're here to discuss my wife's unstable mental state. Her behavior has been erratic, paranoid, and, frankly, dangerous." Gasps rippled through the room. Reporters scribbled furiously. Arielle's heart sank for only a moment, just enough to remind her this was real, but she refused to rise to his theatrics. She reminded herself, this was the arena, and she was prepared. He turned toward her, voice lowering to a whisper that the cameras still caught. "Everyone will see soon enough. She's not who she claims to be." The court murmured. Arielle's hand tightened around her folder. She could feel her hidden power, the quiet intelligence that Hadrian had tried to suppress for months, burning like steel. He had underestimated her. Always. She heard footsteps beside her. The judge's clerk. The bailiff. Everyone was ready. She took a final deep breath, recalling Kadia's words, lyric support, Natalie's guidance. This wasn't just a personal battle anymore. This was truth versus manipulation. Facts versus lies. Hadrian smirked slightly, leaning toward his mistress, confident she would validate him silently. But Arielle ignored him. She closed her eyes for 1 second, remembering her first rooftop sunset in Miami. The girl who had built an empire quietly, the one Hadrian never noticed. That girl was back now. Stronger, sharper, unstoppable. The courtroom door opened again, and the bailiff's voice echoed clearly. "All rise." The Honorable Judge Connolly presiding. Arielle stood, shoulders squared, and the weight of anticipation pressed on every nerve. The judge's gavel came down with a sharp crack. "Mrs. Voss," the judge said, voice calm but firm, "you may take the stand." Every camera focused. Every eye turned. Every whisper paused. Arielle inhaled, lifted her chin, and walked forward. As she reached the stand, her eyes met Hadrian's, his smirk faltering, his confidence cracking. And somewhere deep in her mind, Arielle knew this would be the first time he would truly fear her. Arielle gripped the edge of the witness stand, her palms cool and steady. She looked at the judge first, then scanned the courtroom, meeting every curious, expectant eye. Cameras clicked, reporters leaned forward, and Hadrian's smirk faltered as she opened her mouth. "I will speak the truth," she began softly, almost too quiet for the room to hear. But everyone did. Every word landed deliberately, measured, precise. "I am Arielle Moreau Voss. I am not just the woman you see at these galas. I am AM 13, the owner, creator, and guardian of financial assets that exist beyond the scope of my husband's knowledge." A ripple of murmurs ran through the courtroom. Hadrian's eyebrows shot up, but he remained seated, trying to maintain his composure. Arielle continued, "My husband has hidden debt, fraudulent accounts, and offshore manipulations. Attempts have been made to merge my assets with his, without my consent. There have been threats against my life, attempts to force access to accounts that are legally mine, and correspondence proving collusion with others to exploit me financially." She reached into her folder and lifted the intruder's phone, holding it so the courtroom clerk could project its contents on the monitor. Screenshots of Hadrian's messages appeared in crisp detail. "Hadrian, she's naive. Sweet. Useful. She'll sign whatever I put in front of her. Hadrian, when the merge is done, she won't matter." Gasps erupted. The courtroom audibly shivered. Reporters whispered, and even the bailiffs paused mid-step. Hadrian's mistress shifted nervously, glancing at him for reassurance. Arielle's voice remained calm, soft, unwavering. "These messages, along with bank transfers, attempted breaches, and threats, prove a pattern of calculated fraud and coercion. My husband's empire is built on lies, manipulation, and exploitation, not skill, not integrity." Hadrian's hands clenched into fists on the table. His face flushed red, veins pulsing along his temple. He opened his mouth, trying to interject, but Arielle didn't flinch. She had rehearsed this. She had anticipated his theatrics. She had expected his denial. The courtroom hung on her every word. Even the jurors leaned forward, pens poised, eyes sharp. Furthermore, Arielle continued, voice gaining quiet authority, "These attempts, this behavior, is ongoing. I am not powerless. I am aware, prepared, and fully capable of protecting myself. And I intend to ensure justice is served, not just for myself, but for anyone else deceived by his false image. The room erupted in whispers again. Judges scribbled notes. Reporters snapped rapid photographs. Every eye in the room was locked on Hadrian. And then it happened. He slammed his fist onto the table so hard the sound reverberated through the room. Papers flew. The clerk jumped. His mask of control shattered entirely. "You, how dare you?" Hadrian roared, voice cracking. "You think you can stand here and—" He gestured wildly at the screen, at her folder, at the jury. "This is all lies. Fabrications. You'll see. I've done nothing wrong. You can't, she's insane." The courtroom murmurs turned into chaos. The cameras caught everything. Every word, every scream, every flailing gesture. Arielle's eyes narrowed. Calm in the storm. She had just shown a fraction of her power. She had let the truth breathe for the first time. And now, Hadrian's rage, his uncontrolled, desperate anger, was exposing him further. As his voice echoed and his threats became more erratic, a prosecutor leaned over to the judge and whispered something that made the judge nod gravely. Hadrian froze mid-shout, sensing the courtroom had shifted irreversibly. And Arielle realized this was only the beginning. Arielle stepped out of the courthouse into the crisp New York air, her heels clicking against the stone steps. The world felt both impossibly large and infinitely still. Reporters shouted questions from all directions, cameras flashing. She moved with calm precision, ignoring them, each step deliberate. Every whisper of curiosity brushed past her like wind against glass. For the first time, Arielle allowed herself a quiet smile. The courtroom had been a battlefield, and she had emerged intact, more than intact. She had survived Hadrian's lies, his threats, and his attempts at manipulation. And now, the truth was out. Then came the first shockwave. A reporter lunged forward, microphone extended, voice sharp. "Mrs. Voss, are you AM 13? Are you the billionaire controlling multiple tech companies that Wall Street has been speculating about for years?" Arielle's calm deepened into a quiet, undeniable presence. She didn't answer immediately, letting the moment linger. Reporters whispered among themselves, snapping photos, eyes wide. "Yes," she finally said, voice soft but carrying authority. "I am AM 13. I control several major investment algorithms that have quietly influenced the market for years. And no, my husband had no access to them." The words hit the crowd like a tidal wave. Cameras swung, flashbulbs fired, and journalists scribbled furiously. The whispers grew into gasps of shock and awe. No one had expected the quiet, elegant woman in the courtroom to be a financial genius with unimaginable power. She felt a strange warmth as admiration and respect began to ripple through the crowd. People she had once feared would never notice her genius now had to acknowledge it. The veil Hadrian had used to belittle her, the belief that she was naive or weak, was gone forever. Arielle moved down the steps with the precision of a chess master, each stride deliberate, each gesture intentional. Reporters scrambled to follow, but she ignored them, her mind already pivoting toward the next step. Her truth was public. Her power had been revealed. And now, she was untouchable, at least financially and publicly. As she reached her car, she slid into the back seat, letting the driver close the door. Her phone buzzed immediately, breaking the calm she had worked to cultivate. Notifications flooded the screen, hundreds of messages, news alerts, tweets, and texts. Social media had exploded. Headlines read, AM 13 revealed. Manhattan's secret billionaire wife exposed. Arielle Morrow Voss. From party guest to financial powerhouse, Hadrian Voss humiliated as wife outshines him in court. Her hands trembled slightly, not with fear, but with excitement. The world had shifted beneath her feet. She had survived, and now she was in control in ways Hadrian never imagined. Then, one message stopped her cold. A single line of text from an unknown number, bold, urgent, and unmistakable. "Arielle, it's me. Your husband's mother. We need to talk." Her eyes narrowed. Questions stormed her mind. Why now? What could his mother possibly want after everything? Was she an ally, or another obstacle? Arielle took a slow breath, steadying herself. Whatever came next, she would face it head-on. She had survived betrayal, threats, and deception. She was no longer the woman Hadrian could control, and yet, she sensed the game was far from over. Her phone buzzed again, this time with a second message from the same number. If you value your fortune and your life, meet me tonight. Alone. Arielle arrived at the discreet cafe in Hoboken just as the sun dipped behind the river, painting the sky in bruised purples and pinks. She chose a corner booth, back to the wall, eyes scanning every reflection in the glass. Her phone buzzed again. Hadrian's mother had insisted on a meeting, said it was urgent and personal. When the woman arrived, she looked older than Arielle expected. Her hair streaked with silver, sharp green eyes softening only when they landed on Arielle. She approached cautiously, almost timidly. Thank you for meeting me, she said, sliding into the booth opposite Arielle. Her voice trembled. I owe you everything. Forgive me for not stopping him sooner. I've always suspected my son, Hadrian, is dangerous. I should have done more, but she stopped, shuddering. Arielle's expression stayed calm, measured. She didn't let anger or pity show. You're here now? That's something. Hadrian's mother nodded, tears pricking her eyes. I know I can't undo the past, but I want to help. I need you to understand. He's not just reckless. He's calculating. He's violent if crossed. And Arielle, she leaned closer, lowering her voice. He's hired people, a team, professional operatives. They are already working to retrieve your financial files, by force if necessary. They don't care about legality. They only care about what he wants. Arielle felt the chill of fear creep into her chest, sharp and immediate. But it didn't overwhelm her. She had survived threats before. She had survived his manipulations. She had survived much worse. What do you suggest? She asked softly, voice steady. Hadrian's mother looked down at the table, clasping her hands. You need to be careful. Trust no one connected to him. Change your routes, your routines, everything. And, she hesitated. Consider preemptive measures. He cannot be allowed to reach your accounts. Arielle absorbed the words with the precision of a strategist. Every syllable painted a clearer picture of the danger she faced. Her mind shifted into the mode she had perfected over years of secrecy and silent empire building. Calm calculation replaced fear. I understand, she said, standing. Thank you for telling me. But I don't intend to cower. I will protect everything I've built. Hadrian's mother reached across the table, gripping her hand tightly. He is relentless, and he believes he is untouchable. But, she paused, eyes meeting Arielle's with a mix of regret and hope. Maybe you can finally stop him. Arielle gave a small nod, her jaw tight. Every nerve in her body thrummed with a mixture of fear and determination. The calm before the storm always carried its own weight. She returned to her car, mind already racing with contingencies, encrypted backups, safe houses, and surveillance sweeps. Then her phone buzzed violently, breaking her focus. She opened it. A new message, anonymous. A single image. Her blood ran cold. It was a photograph of herself, taken only minutes ago, outside the cafe, from across the street. Every detail was clear. Her face, the corner booth, her bag. Someone had been watching. Someone knew her movements. She stared at the photo, every instinct screaming danger. A second message followed. Text only. We're closer than you think. Arielle's calm returned, tempered with ice. Her pulse quickened, but her resolve hardened. Whoever was watching, whoever Hadrian had sent, they would find her prepared. They would find her ready. They would find her unbreakable. From across the street, a shadow detached itself from an alley. A figure in black lingered, phone in hand, eyes locked on Arielle. She sensed the predator even before it moved, and knew the next move would be explosive. Arielle drove through the quiet backroads of Maryland, her car's headlights cutting swaths of light through the early evening fog. She kept her eyes on the road, but her mind raced faster than the tires spinning beneath her. Every route, every turn, every stop was calculated, nothing accidental. She wasn't just fleeing. She was positioning herself. The safe house was small, nondescript, a simple brick townhouse tucked behind a cluster of aging oaks. No cameras, no frills, no prying eyes. Lyric had helped secure it weeks ago, anticipating moments just like this. Arielle parked in the shadows, checked her surroundings, and slipped inside. The place smelled faintly of cedar and old books, a quiet refuge. She set her laptop on the table, booting up the secure server she rarely touched in public. Her plan was simple but audacious. Hadrian had shown the world, and himself, that he thought he could manipulate her. He thought he could reach into her financial life and take what was hers. Arielle decided it was time to turn the tables. She created a series of false accounts and false transaction logs, cleverly designed to appear irresistible to Hadrian. Offshore mergers, hidden liquidity pockets, fabricated investment channels, all precise decoys her team had vetted to withstand scrutiny if anyone actually investigated. They were bait, too good to resist, wrapped in the illusion of vulnerability. Once the information was ready, she leaked it through a seemingly anonymous financial channel Hadrian had previously accessed. Every digital breadcrumb was traced with subtlety. No one but Hadrian would notice the signal, and only he would recognize it as accessible. She watched the network analytics as the first pings appeared. Within minutes, patterns began to emerge. Access attempts, masked IPs, login triggers. The bait had been taken. Arielle leaned back in her chair, feeling the thrill of strategy coursing through her veins. She allowed herself a brief, quiet smile. Hadrian's ego and recklessness would force him forward, exactly where she wanted him. She could almost hear the gears turning in his mind. Greed, arrogance, the desperate need to control. She reviewed the federal attorney's instructions again, confirming every safeguard, every pre-registered account, every alert protocol. If he moved too quickly or too brazenly, federal agents were ready to intervene. The sting was set. Hours passed slowly. The Maryland wind rattled the windows, and Arielle's mind cycled through every possible contingency. She imagined Hadrian scrutinizing the fake data, interpreting every line, every balance, every opportunity as real. He would act recklessly. He would overreach. Then her secure phone buzzed. An encrypted notification. The first unauthorized login attempt had been recorded, direct, immediate, and aggressive. Arielle's pulse quickened. The trap was not just working, it was live. She tapped a command key, tracing the origin, marking every digital footprint, every routing signature. The patterns were unmistakable. Hadrian himself was making the move. Arielle exhaled slowly, her hands steady. Every plan, every risk, every calculation was about to converge. Her heart thrummed, not with fear, but with anticipation. Somewhere out there, Hadrian believed he was clever, unstoppable, and unseen. But in reality, he was walking straight into the exact scenario Arielle had designed. The wind howled against the windows of the Maryland safe house as her team monitored every angle, ready to intervene. A message flashed on her screen, sharp and precise. Access confirmed. Target moving. Arielle smiled, a quiet, deadly grin. Hadrian, oblivious, was already on his way, straight into a federal sting carefully orchestrated by Arielle and her allies. And the moment he crossed the threshold, there would be no turning back. Arielle sat in the dim light of the Maryland safe house, legs crossed, laptop balanced on her knees. Outside, the fog rolled in low over the streets, swallowing shapes and muffling sound. She sipped her tea quietly, eyes fixed on the live feed of the operation. Every detail had been rehearsed, every contingency accounted for. The calm was almost serene. She didn't fidget, didn't speak, didn't blink more than necessary. Her pulse was steady, her mind razor-sharp. The months of planning, the stolen money, the threats, the lies, they all converged in this moment. Across the city, Hadrian believed he was moving unseen. He had followed the breadcrumbs she'd left, every login, every data leak, every opportunity for her fortune, thinking he was clever, thinking he would finally control what he'd never understood. Then it began. Federal agents, dressed in black tactical gear, moved into position with precision. Cameras from the bureau captured every angle. Arielle watched the monitors as vehicles blocked the perimeter, agents fanned out, and Hadrian's car approached the predetermined location. A small smirk ghosted across Arielle's lips as she watched him step out of the car, unaware, scanning the surroundings like a king surveying his kingdom. The masked panic of the intruder she'd escaped months ago now paled in comparison to the calm certainty of the law closing in. The first agent moved swiftly, tapping Hadrian on the shoulder. Federal Bureau of Investigation. You're under arrest. Hadrian froze, eyes darting, muscles tensing, like a predator caught in headlights. His mistress shrieked, clinging to him, but he shoved her away, voice rising. What? What is this? This is illegal. I have lawyers. The agents didn't flinch. Their hands moved with trained precision, cuffing him, reading rights, securing the scene. Every word, every movement, every digital trace Arielle had meticulously planted had led here. On her screen, the courtroom cameras had picked up the live feed. Reporters whispered into microphones as Hadrian, flustered and furious, was led toward the waiting cars. Flashbulbs went off. Phones recorded, journalists typed. The world watched in real time. Arielle's eyes never left him. There was no glee in her expression, no triumph in her voice. Only cold, unyielding justice. The man who had tried to control her life, who had lied, cheated, and threatened, was now powerless. He struggled, shouting at the agents, trying to command the scene, but his arrogance crumbled beneath the authority of law. Every lie, every manipulation, every act of deceit had finally caught up to him. And then his eyes found hers. Across the feeds, through the cameras, through the chaos, he screamed her name. Arielle, you'll pay for this. I swear it. You'll. His voice cracked, raw with rage, desperation, and disbelief. Arielle didn't flinch. She didn't respond. She allowed him the space to implode, to burn in the fury of his own making. She had waited, watched, and acted, and now his empire was collapsing piece by piece. Her hands folded calmly on her lap. The tea was cold. The fog pressed against the windows. Outside, the world continued, oblivious to the full weight of justice being carried out in quiet precision. Hadrian's screams echoed in her mind, but they no longer had power over her. He had underestimated her every step of the way, and now the consequences were undeniable. Even as he was led away in handcuffs, Hadrian turned his gaze back to her screen, eyes wild and burning. This isn't over, Arielle. I will come for you. I promise you revenge. Arielle's car rolled into the familiar streets of Baltimore as dusk fell. The city smelled like rain on asphalt and distant fried food. Ordinary, grounding, real. For the first time in months, she felt a tentative sense of relief. She had survived, she had exposed Hadrian, and she had reclaimed control over her life. Pulling into her mother's driveway, she breathed deeply, letting the tension drain from her shoulders. Her mother, Mara, was waiting on the porch, her silhouette framed by the warm glow of the porch light. The sight of her mother's familiar, steady presence brought Arielle a small, precious comfort. "Mom," Arielle said softly as she stepped out, her voice breaking with a mix of exhaustion and relief. Her mother ran forward, wrapping her in a hug. "You're home. Thank God. I was worried sick." For the first time in weeks, Arielle allowed herself to relax. She sat in her childhood room that night, windows open to the cool evening air, listening to the faint hum of traffic and the distant laughter of neighbors. She felt safe, grounded. A quiet warmth spread through her chest as her mother sat nearby, knitting, humming softly. Arielle reflected on the months of fear, betrayal, and danger. Hadrian's collapse had been public, dramatic, and devastating for him. But for her, it had been more than revenge. It had been the reclaiming of her power. She allowed herself a small smile, thinking of her algorithms, her empire, her autonomy. And yet, the calm was fragile. The next morning, as she walked the familiar streets to her favorite cafe, she received a notification from Katia. Unusual activity in her financial accounts. She frowned. Hadrian had been arrested, but the ripple effects of his empire were still reaching out, claws still extended through his old partners and collaborators. Her phone buzzed again with more warnings from Lyric. "Heads up. Some of Hadrian's old associates are sniffing around your accounts. They know you're exposed, but also that you have leverage. Stay alert." Arielle felt the old familiar pulse of danger in her veins. Her chest tightened, but her mind immediately shifted into problem-solving mode. She couldn't relax fully, not yet. She knew the calm she had found in Baltimore was temporary, fragile, and precious. Later that evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the porch lights flickered on, a shadow moved across Mara's driveway. Arielle had learned to notice patterns, signals, and signs of intrusion. She approached slowly, instinct sharpening every sense. On the doorstep, tucked neatly beneath the welcome mat, was a single envelope. The paper was thick, black, and unmarked. Arielle's heart sank instantly. She knew that handwriting, or lack thereof, was deliberate, intimidating. The presence of the envelope spoke louder than any words. She picked it up, feeling the weight of the unknown in her hands. Mara watched nervously from the doorway, sensing the tension. Arielle's instincts screamed that this was more than a simple message. With a deep, controlled breath, she opened it. Inside, a single note in sharp, slanted handwriting read, "You can run, Arielle, but we will find you next. H's people." A chill ran through her, a reminder that even with Hadrian behind bars, the game was far from over. Arielle folded the note slowly, eyes narrowing. She knew the storm wasn't finished, and this time, it was no longer just about Hadrian. Arielle walked into the gleaming glass lobby of the Manhattan skyscraper like she owned every inch of it, because, in a sense, she did. Cameras flashed, reporters whispered, and employees glanced up from their desks with a mix of awe and curiosity. Today, she was no longer just the woman in Hadrian's shadow. She was Arielle Moreau-Vos, the youngest black female billionaire in America, the quiet force who had outmaneuvered a man who had thought himself untouchable. She moved with deliberate grace, heels clicking against the polished marble floor, a symbol of every calculated step she had taken over the past year. Her tailored suit was understated, elegant, yet carried authority. This was her domain now, not just financial, but psychological, cultural, symbolic. She had risen from fear, betrayal, and near destruction, and she had claimed her throne. The calm before the storm was intoxicating. She entered the boardroom, the city skyline glittering behind floor-to-ceiling windows. Hadrian's former business partners sat there, unaware of the twist they were about to witness. Confidence radiated from her posture. She did not need to speak yet. The silence alone made them uncomfortable. Arielle finally addressed them, voice smooth and commanding. "Good morning. I believe some introductions are necessary. I am Arielle Vos, and as of last night, I am the majority owner of your company." A stunned silence swept the room. Phones were pulled out, murmurs rippled, and one partner's hand trembled over his coffee cup. The idea seemed impossible. Overnight, how could she have acquired control without them noticing? She smiled faintly, allowing a brief pause for the weight of the revelation to settle. Then she continued, firm and unwavering. "All assets, voting rights, and board privileges now belong to me. Any attempt to manipulate, coerce, or exploit my resources, or my people, will be met with immediate legal and financial consequences." Eyes widened. The partner who had once sneered at her ideas now blinked rapidly, realizing he had underestimated her. Every spreadsheet, every balance sheet, every market maneuver she had built in secret had been her unseen army, and now it had arrived, ready to crush any resistance. One by one, she laid out her strategy, her acquisitions, and her plans to expand and protect her empire. Hadrian's partners could no longer manipulate her. They were completely outmaneuvered. The room felt the chill of her dominance, the sharp edge of a mind honed by betrayal and survival. Then, as the murmurs subsided, one partner leaned slightly forward, voice low and almost conspiratorial. "Arielle, you've done an impressive job. But check your husband's accounts." The words sliced through the room like a knife, bringing a sudden awareness that even with Hadrian arrested and her empire secured, unseen dangers remained. Arielle's eyes narrowed. Her calm returned, steely and deliberate. Whatever they were hiding, whatever secrets remained, she would uncover them. Every move she had made until now had been preparation. Every threat had only sharpened her instincts. The boardroom fell silent again, but this time the silence was hers to command. Arielle pulled her phone from her pocket and opened Hadrian's frozen accounts, ready to see what new betrayals or surprises awaited her. Arielle sat in her sleek corner office, the Manhattan skyline a cold backdrop to the storm brewing on her laptop. The room smelled faintly of polished wood and espresso, but the scent barely registered. Her focus was absolute, her fingers flying over keys, decrypting, cross-referencing, and pulling threads together. She opened Hadrian's frozen accounts, each line a story of greed, arrogance, and delusion. On the surface, they looked mundane: transfers, investments, and old acquisitions. But Arielle knew to look deeper. She had learned that the most dangerous manipulations were the ones carefully hidden in plain sight. Hours passed. Lines of code, tax filings, and transfer logs blurred together, but she persisted, relentless. Her calm was surgical, precise, a mind trained to parse chaos into clarity. Then she saw it. A series of transfers, subtle and almost invisible at first glance. Millions moved overseas, layered through shell corporations, disguised under dummy accounts. But what caught her attention wasn't the amount. It was the name on the final account. Her name. Not her real account, not her verified entities, but a fabricated identity. Arielle Morrow, with her birthday, a partial social, and enough personal details to make it look authentic. Hadrian had created it as a trap, a weapon. Every transaction funneled into this phantom account, siphoning her own fortune and attempting to tie her name to his crimes. Shock slammed into her chest, cold and heavy. She felt her stomach twist. This wasn't just greed or revenge, it was meticulous sabotage. He had intended to destroy her reputation, her finances, and her life simultaneously. Every careful step she had taken to survive now collided with the reality of just how far he had been willing to go. Her mind raced, cataloging the implications. Lawsuits, criminal charges, public scandal, international scrutiny. Hadrian hadn't just underestimated her. He had assumed he could weaponize her identity itself against her. Arielle's hands shook briefly, then steadied. She had survived every attempt he had made so far. This would be no different. She documented every transaction, tracing every offshore link, every shell company, every false identity. She pulled in her team from Massachusetts and Maryland, encrypting files, preparing evidence packages. Every stone was being turned, every angle secured. As she worked, her phone rang. Unknown number. She hesitated only a fraction of a second before picking it up. Mrs. Voss. A calm voice, official and serious. This is Agent Lennox with the FBI. We've been reviewing the case. And we found something you need to see. We believe it's directly related to your husband's schemes. Arielle froze, pulse hammering. Send it. Now. A pause on the line. Then. It's large. Very large. And it implicates more people than you know. We need you in D.C., secure briefing. Immediately. She gripped the edge of her desk, mind spinning. Hadrian's betrayal had layers she hadn't imagined. But now, for the first time, she had an opportunity not just to survive, but to dismantle every piece of his empire in one precise strike. Arielle's lips pressed into a thin line. She closed her laptop and grabbed her coat. Whatever Hadrian thought he had hidden, whatever trap he believed would ruin her forever, she was about to turn it into his final defeat. The FBI agent's final words echoed in her mind as she sped toward D.C. Mrs. Voss, this is bigger than we thought. And you're the only one who can stop it. Arielle walked through the sterile corridors of the federal prison in D.C., the faint echo of footsteps and the scent of antiseptic pressing against her senses. She had been here before, but never like this. Not to witness her former husband behind bars, not to confront the man who had attempted to destroy her life. Her heart was steady, her hands relaxed at her sides. Calm, controlled. She was escorted into the visitation room, a small, cold chamber with a thick glass partition. On the other side, Hadrian sat at the metal table, hands cuffed, suit rumpled, hair disheveled. His expression was unreadable at first, stoic, almost bored. Then, as their eyes met, the mask slipped. You came, he said softly, almost a whisper, as if surprised by her presence. I did, Arielle replied evenly. Her voice carried neither anger nor warmth. Just truth. I needed to hear it from you. What? Hadrian leaned forward, eyes intense, dark with unspent rage and admiration. You think you fooled me. You think I didn't know who you really were all along. Arielle's brow furrowed slightly. You knew? A hint of a smile touched his lips, cold, calculating. Of course. I knew. AM, 13. The algorithms, the secret accounts, the money you hid while smiling in my face. I knew. And I waited. Oh, I waited for the perfect moment to take it all. Her chest tightened, not with fear, but with a quiet, burning clarity. She had known he underestimated her, but she hadn't realized the depth of his arrogance. He had seen her as a tool, a placeholder, a naive wife, all while fully aware of the power she wielded. And yet here you are, Arielle said softly, leaning closer to the glass, her eyes unwavering. You didn't take anything. You tried, but I was always ahead of you. Every step. Every attempt. You never realized the person you thought was naive was your worst nightmare. Hadrian laughed, a hollow, chilling sound. You think this is over? Do you think locking me up will erase me? I've planted seeds everywhere, Arielle. Every connection, every partner, every shred of influence you think you've purged, they still remember me. They still follow me. And one day, I will rise again. And you will never be free of me. The words cut sharper than any knife. Arielle's lips pressed into a firm line. She had fought through threats, intrusions, betrayals, and near-death experiences. Yet hearing him speak like this, as though his shadow could follow her beyond these walls, sent a chill through her spine. I've spent my life underestimated, she replied quietly, her voice a steel thread. You will not rise. Not today. Not tomorrow. You may be in the system, but I am outside it, and I will protect everything I've built. You are finished, Hadrian. Finished. His eyes flared with a mixture of admiration and hatred. Finished? No, not yet. You think power is protection. You think control is safety. But you'll see. Arielle, shadows last longer than light. Arielle turned slightly, her jaw tight, her mind already processing contingencies, strategies, and safeguards. She had survived him once. She had outmaneuvered him at every turn. And she would continue to do so. As she stood to leave, the glass between them a physical and symbolic barrier, Hadrian's voice echoed one last time, cold and venomous. You will never be free of me. Arielle's fingers tightened around the railing outside the visitation room. His words were a warning, a threat, but she also felt the familiar pulse of resolve. She knew now that the final act was approaching, and when it came, she would write it entirely on her own terms. Arielle sat across from the federal agents in a quiet, secure conference room in D.C., the hum of the building a low, steady rhythm beneath their words. The past months, the betrayals, the threats, the arrests, had all led to this moment. She felt calm, her mind sharp, her body aligned with purpose. Every move she had made, every risk she had taken, had been preparation for this truth. Agent Lennox cleared his throat, leaning forward. Mrs. Voss, there's something we need you to know. Something you won't believe until you see the documentation. Arielle raised an eyebrow, interest piqued. The agent pushed a folder across the table, the paper crisp and official. She opened it carefully, scanning the details. Her pulse quickened as she read lines she hadn't expected. Hadrian, in a move of arrogance he had never imagined would backfire, had signed over full ownership of his empire to her. Months ago, before the gala where he humiliated her publicly, he had assumed marriage gave him leverage over her compliance. He had believed she would be too naive, too trusting, too loyal to question him. But every signature, every corporate document, every legal clause had cemented her control. Arielle leaned back, absorbing the weight of it. All of Hadrian's assets, his companies, his networks, everything, legally hers. The irony was poetic. The man who had tried to control, manipulate, and destroy her had unknowingly handed her the ultimate victory. A rush of triumph surged through her. Her hands rested lightly on the folder, but her mind soared. She had navigated a maze of deceit, racism, and betrayal, and emerged not only intact but empowered beyond measure. She thought of her mother in Baltimore, Lyric, Katia, and Natalie, everyone who had helped, believed, and protected her. Agent Lennox smiled faintly. You now have the power to shape the future, Mrs. Voss. Use it wisely. Arielle nodded, a quiet smile touching her lips. I will. She left the room, walking through the corridors with a sense of clarity she had never known. Each step was measured, deliberate, a rhythm of her own making. The weight of past betrayals fell away, replaced by a new strength. Empathy and resilience forged in fire. She had been underestimated, dismissed, and targeted, but she had endured. Outside, the sunlight poured over the steps of the building, golden and unrelenting. Arielle stopped, closing her eyes for a moment, letting it wash over her. She thought of every struggle she had faced, the subtle racism in boardrooms, the arrogance of those who assumed power was given by gender or skin color, the betrayal of someone she had once loved. And she let herself feel pride, not in revenge, but in survival, strategy, and justice. She whispered to herself, a vow carried in the wind. This time, my story is mine. Her gaze lifted to the horizon, a city buzzing with opportunity, challenge, and life. She knew that every act of kindness she had shown, every calculated mercy, had guided her here. Empathy had been her secret weapon, her shield, and her compass. As the camera of the world seemed to follow her, Arielle offered a silent invitation to those watching. Reflect, act, and nurture kindness. The strongest victories are not only against injustice. They are also for the betterment of the world around you. Strength and compassion, when combined, are unstoppable. She took a deep breath, stepping fully into the sunlight, leaving the shadows behind. The empire, her life, her identity, everything, was hers now. If Arielle's story taught us anything, it's this. No matter the betrayal, the prejudice, or the obstacles, strength and empathy can turn the impossible into reality. Remember, real power comes not from wealth or revenge, but from kindness, resilience, and believing in yourself. Share this story with someone who needs a reminder that their voice, their choices, and their story truly matter.